really communicating strongly to all the people we've housed in our 423 units to try to only come downtown if you have to type of thing.
Okay.
Right. Just kind of, anyways, at least on game days.
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. The FIFA World Cup men's soccer tournament is underway, and the area's first match will be held on Monday, June 15th at the newly renamed Seattle Stadium. But for all its excitement, the World Cup has generated some local concerns, particularly when it comes to some of our area's most vulnerable populations. Hourglass recently sat down with Derrick Belgarde of Chief Seattle Club, a United Way-funded organization that provides shelter, services, and spiritual support to Indigenous people experiencing homelessness. Chief Seattle Club is in the Pioneer Square neighborhood, which is adjacent to Seattle Stadium and where much of the foot traffic during the World Cup will likely occur. We chatted with Belgarde about topics including the precautions Chief Seattle Club is taking as it continues to support populations experiencing homelessness during the World Cup, and how he'd like to see the financial windfall from the tournament be used to address our homelessness crisis. We will also discuss ways you can still get your taxes prepared for free by United Way of King County, and an upcoming summer event sponsored by our grantee Choose 180. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. The FIFA World Cup kicks off in the Seattle area on Monday, June 15th, and it is believed to be the first time our area has hosted a major world sporting event since the Goodwill Games in 1990. Well before Monday's matchup between Belgium and Egypt at the newly renamed Seattle Stadium, aka Lumen Field, city officials have been probing the impact that hosting 6 World Cup games will have on our area. To say the tournament will bring a lot with it is an understatement. According to Visit Seattle, the official destination marketing organization for the city and King County, the 6 World Cup matches during June and July are projected to bring about $845 million to the local economy, including about $96 million in tax revenue. Visit Seattle projects the tournament will draw 750,000 fans locally and will bring about 19,000 full-time and part-time jobs to our region. But what else will it bring? Some local officials and activists are concerned that the World Cup may usher in displacement of some of our most vulnerable populations in the downtown corridor, namely the unsheltered. Like many of the U.S. cities hosting World Cup matches, Seattle has a sizable homelessness population, including some in areas of the downtown corridor adjacent to Seattle Stadium, where much of the foot traffic during World Cup matches will likely occur. Associated Press reported earlier this month that World Cup host city Atlanta recently moved nearly 500 people experiencing homelessness into housing. City of Seattle officials reportedly have opened scores of homelessness shelter units in advance of the World Cup's arrival. Associated Press said that some World Cup host cities have used the tournament stage to draw attention to the homelessness crisis. Yet others say that there's proof that major sporting events often worsen the problem. In 2022, the Swiss-based research publisher Frontiers studied the impact of the Olympic Games on such host cities as Beijing, Rio de Janeiro, and London. The study reported a link between hosting the Games and forced evictions and displacements of the city's marginalized residents. And even if shelters are provided during the tournament, some organizations are concerned that those experiencing homelessness who just happen to be in the area on game day might be the target of complaints from visitors or harassment from rowdy fans. Fortunately for our area, there are organizations that not only support our most vulnerable neighbors, but they implement protocols to safeguard our neighbors' rights and protections during major sporting events and year-round. They include Chief Seattle Club, a United Way-funded organization that provides resources, services, and spiritual support to Indigenous people experiencing homelessness. Chief Seattle Club's Day Center offers food, health care, housing assistance, legal services, job training, and opportunities for its members to engage in cultural community building. Chief Seattle Club says it strives to ensure that local Indigenous residents are safe, healthy, housed, and connected to communities that celebrate Indigenous cultures. As hundreds of thousands converge on our city for soccer, Chief Seattle Club has monitored World Cup preparations, and it is implementing protocols to ensure that its work continues unabated and that the people it serves are protected. On the eve of the June 15th match at Seattle Stadium, Hourglass sat down with Chief Seattle Club CEO Derrick Belgarde to discuss topics including the precautions Chief Seattle Club is taking as it continues to support populations experiencing homelessness during the World Cup, and how he'd like to see the financial windfall from the tournament be used to address our homelessness crisis. Here's what Derrick had to say.
So Native Americans in this city, and it's kind of the same kind of, throughout the country, all these big metropolitan cities. Here in Seattle, we're less than 2% of the general population, but we have the highest disparities when it comes to homelessness and housing insecurity. Whether it's family housing or family homelessness or youth homelessness. In our case, single chronic adult homelessness, which was like over 30% of that rate, which is by far the grossest disparity. That's what that's what we're working at. So we provide a lot of permanent supportive housing, right? We have 5 buildings in our portfolio, totaling 423 units. But historically, what we were before we started getting in, being able to provide our community with housing, our headquarters where we do our social services is right in Pioneer Square.
Right.
Right. And it's a day center, drop-in shelter, first and foremost, a place where, somebody who's homeless on the streets can come and get a shower, get a hot meal, talk to somebody about other services or referral or, those type of things, stay connected or just get respite care, keep your feet up, and that's what we do. And so nothing changes through the summer to the winter, what we do. Obviously, we see some higher numbers in winter because people want to come indoors,
Right.
But our rates are still the highest disparities and we're still out there trying to do it. I'm sure you're asking in particular to the FIFA coming and what that's going to do to our people.
Right.
Right. And we're paying attention and we're going to watch it very closely. We're hoping, we're trying to be optimistic that it's going to be a great thing for the city. We support and understand that. But we do have, in the back of our head about the dangers of what it can cause. And because historically, just over decades, we've seen and we've known that our people, and not even just native homeless people, but all homeless people in the downtown core, are at risk of brutalization, of assaults. If people have with high testosterone coming out of these games, very amped up,
Right.
boozy, and all of those things, letting their lizard brain take over, right? It can happen, and we know that our people get assaulted during those things. And then we're just talking regular sporting events, not something as grand as FIFA.
Exactly.
And now when you bring in the nationalization of stuff that's happening around the world today with, these global events and, and the national pride and things like that, we're just we're getting prepared for, something bad, hopefully it doesn't come about. Hopefully things go off without a hitch, but we got to be ready and we got to be prepared. We've been communicating with our staff and and all of our relatives that we serve and we house in the Pioneer Square area about the potential, about being on alert. We see groups of drunk people walking or things like that, right? You just got to be careful. You got to be alert and be prepared and not escalate situations. So just trying to do the best we can at anticipation.
What kind of conversations have you had with city officials about that very thing?
We've talked to a few over the time, and in kind of all those same concerns, because we've talked about those concerns even before FIFA, right? Like that those type of things were happening in Pioneer Square. We've asked for security guards in the past of we should have patrols. Police should be patrolling on a regular foot basis or at least bicycle basis like they used to back in the day pre-pandemic in the neighborhood of Pioneer Square, keep Pioneer Square safe. So we have been communicating. We've actually, we're going to have elevated security during the game days.
Good.
Right. But I don't know what that does on non-game days because, just because the game days here in Seattle doesn't mean nothing's going on elsewhere. And that doesn't mean they're going to have in their activation areas and zones, things happening and more, excessive boozing and stuff like that. So we could use more security.
Okay. Yeah. What are you most excited about with the World Cup coming here?
It's a double-edged sword. What I think something like the World Cup in 2026 can do, right? Like there's this global animosity of this feeling of, of what's happening, and I don't know where our status, our reputation is globally and around the world and what we're thinking of a lot of countries. And there's a lot of that happening. But at the same time, something like this has a chance and an opportunity to heal some of that, right? And to bring some of that, to calm some of that down and to actually be, like competition and things used to be great. It used to be thought of as, something beautiful. You used to cover sports, like you said, right? And it could be a great thing, or if in the wrong attitude, it can actually be dangerous, right? Like I was saying, like if you get the wrong mixture of alcohol, testosterone, some lizard brain there, the bad things can happen. But there is a chance that it could bring people together. It could actually bring, heal some of that animosity we have towards outsiders, towards different countries and things like that.
What is members or leaders in the Pioneer Square community? What kind of conversation are community leaders having?
I think for the most part, I think everybody's really on board for the things I was just saying, that I think people are excited about what the positive, right? And the opportunity of good things that could happen from it. So I think a lot of people are focused on that, choosing the optimistic lens, which is good. But yeah, so that's what I'm hearing is a lot of people are thinking all the great things that this could do for the city and beyond.
Speaking of which, I've read stories where they talk about a financial windfall in the 9 figures, like $845 million to the city. What would something like that do for this area in particular?
That's the money that they say they're bringing in, right? Yeah. Well, I know what I would like to see with it.
Yeah, that's it.
But I don't know if that is all the plan, right? But there's a lot of housing that could be built with that. There's a lot of services. Behavioral health needs ramped up. Like one of the things that we always talk about is how about more housing, more shelters, right? Nobody talks about the need to increase behavioral health services. And one of my things that my soapbox, if you will, I talk about is, everybody talks about this homeless crisis, right? And the housing shortage. And there is. Those things are real, obviously. But they don't talk about the other crises. That is behavioral health. What's happened since the Reagan era, the dismantling of the behavioral health system. And it's totally gone now. And what you see now in all these major cities, when everybody's talking about like, oh, you walk through and it's like bedlam, and you walk through this city, it's horrible, and all these tents and everything popped up and people walking around like zombies, right? You get that. And there's some truth to all of it, obviously. But that's what a society looks like after dismantling their behavioral health system after 40 years. That's where we're at right now. And we need to build that back up. And building housing and walls isn't going to do that. Right? So that's what I would like to see, a lot of that money.
And when you have those conversations about that for a city that, since I've been here for 11 years, housing, homelessness has been so dominant. When you have those kind of conversations about what's needed to really address this long-term, short-term, how do you think that is received?
Here, at least locally in Seattle, King County, Washington, I think, or just basically Northwest, West Coast, I think it's received well. I think in other parts of the country, it's not, right? But I do think it's received well, but I think it is a very bundled up nest, right? It needs to be unwoven. There's just too much to unpack. It's complicated. But I do think people do understand that. And I don't think when I've talked about the need for strengthening up, behavioral health, and this is the product of what the current streets are, the current product of what dismantling a behavioral health system looks like in a country. obviously everybody's like, because I'm not the original of that thought, right? Like, so a lot of people do know that, but how do you build that up? And so I think what happens is a lot of policymakers, a lot of program developers, a lot of, people, rather than building back up a true behavioral health system, they just throw money at the housing side of things and expect the social service providers like the Chief Seattle Club to actually be the mental health providers. Yep. And we are not equipped to be clinicians, nor do we want to be in that game, right? We want to actually provide the housing, provide social services, but they still need clinical support. So what do they need? They need a behavioral health system, which we don't have. So I think that is probably like the quickest solution that a lot of people think is like, we do know that everybody's suffering and needs behavioral health. So instead of creating from zero ground, because the Reagan era it's gone, rather than just build it back up, they want to just add it on to, add it as part of the housing, which, it's not working too well.
And for the people that you serve, what are you telling them about maybe what they might need to do differently to come to your services with all these crowds here? Are you changing your hours? Are you doing things at different locations?
Well, one of the great things about the Chief Seattle Club and the Native community, and it's probably the same in whether you're in Baltimore, whether you're in, Minneapolis, Denver, LA, or here in Seattle, is the word of mouth in our community. It is great. It's its own communication channel and stream. And so that, we don't really have to change much on that. And historically, it's been the 7 to 2, our day center, our hours for operations, and where you come to get services, where you come to get support, where you come to get referrals. It's kind of always historically been the same hours. So I don't think there's much to change there we have to worry about. And what we're really focused on is actually really communicating strongly to all the people we've housed in our 423 units to try to only come downtown if you have to type of thing.
Okay.
Right. Just kind of, and anyways, at least on game days.
That's good.
Yeah. So we're not really changing anything up on that. So we just kind of keep going as is. And so we're not anticipating any big issue there. One of the misconceptions about our native chronic single adult homelessness is that there are overabundance here in the Pioneer Square area of downtown, which is not true. Historically, all the services and Chief Seattle Club has been located in Pioneer Square. So our community, the chronic single adult community within our native community, is they come from all the different neighborhoods. We have people that come for years that encamp in West Seattle, U District, Ballard, even White Center, like all over, even probably some suburb cities. They come for the services, they come and get their meals, and then they get back, probably bus or transit or or even walk, right. But so it is kind of a misconception that because of our services we're here. So everybody assumed that. So I know that a lot of people are worried about sweeps happening, right? Maybe even this weekend, cleaning up the streets, right? Or something, because they don't want to see it around the stadium areas. We're worried about that too, but for the broad general community. We're not going to be overrepresented in that number, but we stand with all the other providers who are worried about that as well. So they shouldn't be sweeping up and relocating, re-traumatizing people just because FIFA's coming.
When you mention to people, don't come downtown.
Yeah.
What was the response?
It's understood. Nobody's we're not dictating it to them. Hey, you're not coming downtown. It's just kind of a suggestion. That another great thing that's really understated about the Chief Seattle Club, at least our headquarter building downtown in Pioneer Square, and we don't really get credited for that as much, but it's the social hub for our community, for that chronic single adult community. The people who are recovering, being housed, and those who are still not housed. It's a social hub. It's where you get your social needs met. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. So there's still going to be people coming down, and for that reason. And then there's going to be some wanting to come down just to be part of the hoopla, right? And so So we're not going to be able to stop everybody. It's just trying to communicate and make people, give them enough information so they can make the best decisions for themselves. Yeah.
Awesome. Derrick Belgarde, Chief Seattle Club. Thank you so much for your time on Hourglass.
Thank you.
For more information about Chief Seattle Club, log on to chiefseattleclub.org. To learn about United Way's efforts to address the homelessness crisis, log on to uwkc.org, click on What We Do, click on Our Neighbor Fund, and click on Homelessness Prevention. Do you still need to file an income tax return this year? Well, take note. United Way of King County's free tax preparation campaign has been extended into July to help you file not only your 2025 return, but any return since 2020. Our free tax prep helps low and middle income households claim key cash benefits, including the Earned Income Tax Credit, the Child Tax Credit, and the Working Families Tax Credit. After processing more than 12,000 annual returns and helping people access more than $18 million in credits from January through April, United Way has kept some of its free tax prep sites open. Those sites are at Hope Link Bellevue and the Downtown Seattle Library for filing in person. They will remain open through July 25th, and our virtual service will remain open through July 30th. For more information, log on to getyourrefund.org/UWKC. Mark this on your summer events calendar. Choose 180's first ever pop-up on July 19th at 210 Seattle, an historic naturally lit blank canvas space in Pioneer Square. Choose 180 is a Buren-based United Way supported organization that works to transform systems of injustice and support the young people that are impacted by those systems. Choose 180's pop-up is a partnership with minority-owned local businesses and creators to build their own version of a community market, featuring flower stands, coffee and matcha carts, local artists, barbers, tattoos, and more. The organization will also launch its new Building Futures merch line at the event. Choose 180 Director Nika Payne says the event intends to create visibility for local businesses and build community around the work Choose 180 does with young people.
But what's equally exciting about that is that part of who we'll be bringing as vendors are 2 past participants who went through one of our diversion programs and through working with us and, of course, their own amazingness, are now operating their own business. And so they will be able to be there with us and highlight the work that we do. And I think that's just talk about a 180 moment. And so it's so exciting. So it's more than just a pop-up for us. It's a way to have folks really see firsthand 5 years ago or 3 years ago, these 2 participants entering in off of a referral, right? And went through our diversion program, now business owners, and get to partner with us, right? So that's really exciting.
Choose 180 will soon post additional information about the event on its website, choose180.org. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by generous donations from people like you. Please send all comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglass@uwkc.org. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn via @UnitedWayKC. And to learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.